control chaos is nature, really. And I'm fascinated by how things seem totally chaotic, and when you take a deeper look at it, it's really not. In that space is a higher power, and is really the essence of what we are as human beings. And so that's what I try to do with my work, is to capture that magic, that organized chaos.
I wanted to make a moving sculpture that represents the insignificance of each individual in the community. So really it's about finding the power through really meditation, because he's meditating and these crystals are like protruding from every bit of him. Through this meditation, he understands his place in the universe.
This is a ship that is based off of the concept of the Mayflower. Right before slave trade began in America and everything, the dreams of America was just written off the backs of slavery. It was jump-started. It was why we have a lot of things the way they are now. But it's a little experimental, so I gotta try and put it in a couple of places before I can really set these in stone.
So yeah, it's just gonna sit right up here, and it'll have the vines come off and drape down along the insides. And since this is a collaboration, I needed to make sure that I brought both of their essences into the work. And so I felt like I was able to do that by bringing Fabiola's Haitian Creole culture and also Tani's craft of making frames for her specific paintings.
The students are the present and they are the future, and they're the carrier of all their ancestral memory, right? So the work that they're creating in this exhibition is really amazing, powerful, and honest, and they've all taken the time to dive deeper to very uncomfortable places to create their pieces. It's surreal seeing my vision become a reality. This was really only in my head 6 months ago. Now, what was a small 16-inch maquette has become a 7-foot tall sculpture, so it's pretty surreal. This is the largest sculpture I've ever made in my life, so I'm really excited to see it come to life.
Welcome back again to Spotlight, where we feature the University of Central Arkansas's College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. I'm Donna Lampkin-Stevens, and I'm here today with Fabiola Jean-Louis, who is our artist in residence. This is going to be a very special show, Fabiola. I'm so happy that you're here with us, so welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So we are here during the creation of Waters of the Abyss, an intersection of spirit and freedom. So you've been here since January?
Yes.
Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about everything. First of all, this is what, midway through? How would you?
I would say we're about 75 to 80%
finished.
ready.
Okay.
Yes.
It's a huge project, a huge undertaking. It will be on exhibit at the Baum Gallery beginning May 11th for essentially the rest of the summer. So I'm looking forward to seeing it move from the creation phase to the actual unveiling phase. So tell us about what you wanted to do with this really extended residency.
There were a lot of things that I wanted to do. One thing was to bring the history of Haiti and looking at Haiti as an inspiration for Black freedom and revolution and a time for change. And I really wanted to do this work in a place where I felt like that was needed, that was important. And so when I came to Arkansas and I met all the students, it really became this community-based work that really speaks to everything that I intended to do, because revolutionary work is not done with one person. Oftentimes it requires community, and I feel like that's what we've been doing here.
Well, let's talk about the actual particulars. Now, Dr. Gail Seymour, our friend, was a big force behind getting you here.
Yeah.
And you have partnered with UCA, the UCA Department of Art and Design, UCA students, Morrilton High School art students, Green Bay Packaging of the Arkansas Craft Division in Morrilton. Talk about how all those pieces have come together and then we'll get into the art itself.
There were, right from the beginning, a lot of moving pieces. We knew that we needed a lot of paper. I still don't know how much paper we've used, but we were applying for the NEA, the Endowment for the Arts grant. And so there needed to be a community outreach piece to the work. And that's how Morrilton came into the picture.
Since the paper mill is located in
That's
Morrilton.
right. They're located there, but then we realized there was this high school that many of the families just don't have access to a lot of things, and let alone transportation to come to Conway to visit UCA. So it was a wonderful bridge to build and connect for them. And so it was I want to say everything was serendipitous in that way. And
the best things always
they always are, right? And so it worked out that way, and there were people here between Morrilton and UCA that were not only friends, but colleagues in some way, working together. So again, that community piece came together to make it all happen.
So what are the Morrilton students doing for you?
They also created individual pieces, individual sculptures to be in all of the niches. So my students, my college students, and foundation students here at UCA created their pieces, and Morrilton High School students did the same.
So when this is complete, we'll have walls going down?
Yes, the entire columbarium space will be the main altar space where my sculpture will be, and then the parallel walls will be all of the niches that hold the pieces.
How many niches and pieces are we talking about?
60.
60. Wow.
Yes. It was higher before. It was about 90 before, but we had to make some choices to change that number. But 60 is still quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. And everything's made from this paper.
Yes.
Okay. So tell me, how do you actually take the sheets of paper and turn them into these wonderful pieces?
It's a process. So I'm really not doing anything different from the way that it's been done before with papier-mâché. So I'm very conscious about the environment and recycling paper, and that's really part of my process. And so it's just a matter of breaking down things that already exist. So the sheets of paper, if that's how the paper mill sent it to us, we'd break that down into a pulp, and we would start applying that pulp to whatever mold that we had to create the shapes that we wanted. And if the mill sent us the pulp, it was the same process. So nothing really is different from the traditional way of making papier-mâché.
So I'm curious about the Morrilton students. I bet they've never had an experience like
No,
this.
they did not.
Tell me about their reaction to you. I'm sure you went to the school.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
every week,
okay.
once a week. And they were very surprised, they were shocked, and there were a lot of questions, including some questions from UCA students here. Why? Why did you choose Arkansas? Why did you choose us for all of this? And I think once they got past that and understanding that they were all deserving of this opportunity, then we were able to get to work. And there was a challenge for the Morrilton High students. They hadn't been pushed in that way before. And so, but I did express to them that this process was really a journey of discovering oneself. And I wanted them to push themselves in that way and see it as a journey to just, express yourself and get to know yourself a little bit more intimately. And once they started that, it really just took off.
Fabiola, this is going to be a life-changing event for these students. I think they will remember this forever.
I hope so. I hope so. I hope that they really understand that location is one thing. You can be in a place that feels limiting, but we all have the ability to change our world that we live in and to participate in it in the way that we choose. And I hope that that's what they got from that as well.
So how many Morrilton students are there?
I would say about 15, but there's a writing aspect to this. So I know there was a teacher that had their ELA students write some pieces
wonderful.
about family members that they respect and love and wanted to celebrate. And I believe that those pieces will be added to the exhibition.
Oh, great, great. And how many foundation students from UCA are involved?
Wow. Okay, so I think the number is 60-something
Okay.
plus.
Okay.
It was originally around 70-something, I think, but I think that's...
So we're talking
there's a
about nearly 100
yes.
students
Yes.
being a part of this. How wonderful.
Yes.
How wonderful.
And then I have my own students who I think there's 11 of,
Okay,
of my
okay.
students, so we have a lot.
This is great. And so for the niches, they were told to sort of examine themselves, and what are they coming up with? We'll get to see this at the exhibition, but what kinds of things are they coming up with?
I mean, fascinating. One student created a brain, a real looking brain, and put a crown on it. So to me, that was fascinating because it showed how she was thinking about the internal, but then using an item like a crown that we see on the outside to connect those two things. So, I mean, just fascinating work. It really looks like they've written a journal and they're sharing it, a journal entry with the world.
Very vulnerable.
Very vulnerable. But that's the word that I used a lot when I was working with them, was that this is a moment to be vulnerable, and it's going to be hard and uncomfortable. And that's okay, and so they've really surprised me and surprised themselves with what they've put out.
And so their work will be on exhibition at the Baum Gallery, but then once the exhibition closes, they will get to take their pieces home with them, right? Okay, so they have something forever.
They have something forever, and then once the exhibition moves, there will be a museum book created.
Oh.
And so we've been cataloging the selected pieces that will be added to that book. So they're not done yet. And that's the beautiful part about this, that they become the inception of this body of work. And they will further inform how the rest of this work develops. Because it will take a while for this work to finally become what I want it to be.
I mean, this is a years-long.
Several years.
Several
yes,
years,
Yes.
yeah.
It will take several years for me to fill all of these niches with my own work.
Because you will then replace the ones that the students
That's
take.
right.
Yes, yes.
That's right.
Okay.
So in the next couple of years, I'll be making sculptures to fill them. And then I think I also want to leave this exhibition open to collaborating with other artists as well. And that's the way that this here at UCA was created, through collaboration. And I really like that part. So.
And this is your niche.
This is my niche.
This
the
is what
giant
you,
one.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So talk about this piece.
I really wanted to bring the water element into the work and organized chaos into the work. Like I said, because it's a very spiritual idea or body of work that I'm creating, I really am researching Haitian voodoo. I'm going very, very deep into different practices to create this. And so this is really a culmination of all of that research and what I'm finding about my own culture and history. And this piece represents the loa. And the loa are the entities in Haitian voodoo. They all stand for something. They all have a specific thing that they do and they function. And they exist in the underworld, beneath the water. And so this loa really is a representation of a little bit of all of them, and really speaks to the hope for justice. And justice looks like a lot of things. So that's why there's this Madonna hand out. And also it stands for the allowing the self to be invoked by the spirit, So there are a lot of different things in this work that mean something, but everything means something.
Yeah, sure. So let's go back to your background. You were born in Haiti.
Yes.
Okay, so, and then you moved with your family to New York.
Yes.
When you were a child.
I was little.
So tell, and you have remained in touch with family in Haiti, and you've gone back and forth. Tell me about how that has informed your work.
I was often going back to Haiti as a child, so it was never a distant thing for me. And as I got older, I think all of my family left Haiti at one point. And certainly before the earthquake, everyone was out of Haiti. And in 2018, I started visiting more.
Okay.
And to the point where we purchased land and started building a house, which we're doing now. So IT is a very important part to everything that I do, because identity is central in my work. And there's nothing that I create that's not Haitian, really, because I'm Haitian and my hands are touching it. And so every time I'm putting together a concept, it's really coming from that space of connecting and reconnecting to IT.
Have other members of your family returned to buy land again? Or?
No.
So you'll be the only one.
Well, so I've taken all of my children.
Okay,
And
good.
my parents they come from a different time of IT where, you know, they're more concerned with the way things are now because they have that history with Papa Doc. I don't have that. And so I guess they say when you're younger, you're more brave in certain ways, you're less afraid. So, my parents are waiting to see what I do with the land in Haiti, and then I think once things quiet down, they'll join us. But I am slowly taking different family members there.
Good. Will you live there permanently, do you think, or will you go back and forth?
Part-time. The goal one day is to be there half of the year. But it's very difficult in Haiti to get supplies and things like that. So it does make it difficult to function and stay in connection with the rest of the world.
Sure.
If that changes, then I'll probably be retiring in Haiti at some point.
Okay. So you grew up in Brooklyn, okay, and you went. You've always been an artist. Talk about how art has always been a part of your life.
My father instigated that. It was interesting because he never wanted me to be an artist. He was an artist, and I call him a genius, really. He's talented at making everything, and he's so good at it. And I grew up watching my father do that. And it really taught me that I was a maker as well. And I was just always that child that was behind him, over his shoulder, watching everything.
What did he make?
He made clothes. He was an amazing garment maker, and which informed me to go to the High School of Fashion Industries. So watching him do that, he does carpentry. One day I asked him, "You've done everything. Like, what's the one thing that you haven't done or built?" He's like, "I haven't built a car from scratch." So that tells you a lot. That tells you how much he makes, right? And so I knew that I was a maker from the age of probably 4.
And you prefer maker to artist?
Yes,
I like that too.
I've been really looking for a better word than artist, and I think it doesn't speak to what the act of making really is.
I would never consider myself an artist because of the connotation, but I can make things.
That's it.
You know what?
See, that's the thing. I think it allows people to feel like they have access to that.
Absolutely.
And they can really see that we're all able to do that. It's not limited to just a certain group of people. Life is art, really, right? Existing is art. And so making is more honest and accessible to everyone. And that's what I do.
I like that.
I've made human beings. I'm a mother, and I make things out of paper. I make a lot of different things, and so it's just a better way of describing this journey for me.
So he didn't want you to be an artist?
He didn't. He
Why?
wanted me. I come from a family of lawyers, doctors, nurses. The money making careers, and so I left art. I would say about 19 to become a young mother and married very young. And many, many years later,
You really didn't do anything during that time?
I didn't. I just mothered my children and moved to Miami and just, I don't know. I'd like to say that was kind of like my lost moment, my lost time. There was a lot of, aside from mothering, there was a lot of nothingness happening inside of me. Not that it wasn't happening, but that I wasn't checking in. And then my parents said, and then I became divorced, and then I had 3 children. And my parents said, you really have to start thinking about doing something more serious with your life. And, you're a single mother and you're on public assistance, so maybe you need to go back to school. And that's when I finally decided I'd had enough of the suffering, the financial suffering. And I
So how old were you?
Oh, at the time I was 30.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Something. So yeah, I was already,
Okay. A complete non-traditional student.
That's right.
At Nova Southeastern in Florida.
That's right.
Okay.
I want to say that I was 32, 33. And I was scared because science was never something that I wanted to do. And it turned out that I was very talented in science.
So did you just kind of find the science path? or-
So I started in biology.
Okay.
And
Why, though?
that was actually just a requirement.
Okay.
When you're going to med school, you have to start with a bio major, and so
And you
have
thought
to take.
med school.
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
I started with I'll just do nursing. That's safe. I don't have to be, I don't have to be a surgeon or anything like that. But in City College, my teachers realized that I had a talent for science, and they urged me to reach for more. They said, you can do more than nursing. And they encouraged me to look into surgery or something more, becoming a doctor. And that's when I left City College, and with references, I went to Nova
Oh, okay.
for the full 4 years, and then
Okay.
with the goal to apply to med school.
Okay.
So in Nova, I had a perfect 4.0. I worked towards that, an honor roll, and
Still not doing any art.
still not doing any art, still on public assistance, working a part-time job, and my 3 children. And one day, my last year of college, 3 months before entering med school, I picked up a camera, and I realized that at one point I was doing more editing at my day job than my day job. And so my sister told me one day, she was like, you really have to stop lying to yourself. You have to call yourself what you are. And she checked me. She kind of grabbed me by my shoulders and shook me. And I said, you're right. And I had to tell my parents, I had to break the news to my parents.
That you were not going to graduate.
Yeah, and my children.
And you were not going to medical school.
And I wasn't going to medical. As talented as I was in science, I had to explain to them it wasn't a waste of time, that at least I knew how capable I was at excelling in science, and that it was something that was going to feed whatever I do moving forward. But I think the hardest part was telling that to my children, not my parents, because they had to go through that journey with me as a bio major. The waking up at 4 a.m. to get everybody at school on time, and so. But they were like, yeah, let's do it. And so we moved back to New York, and I put us all in the living room of my parents' apartment for 6 months. I worked really hard.
And you decided then you're going to pursue making.
I pursued, yes. I started with the photography, and then it took me 6 months from the photography in my parents' apartment to come up with the Rewriting History collection, and I started it there in that apartment.
So let's talk about rewriting history. This took 5 years. I mean, you
Yes.
specialize in long, big, complicated pieces.
Yes.
Talk about rewriting history.
Rewriting history came at a time when there was a lot of police brutality, and there was just so much going on in 2016. And I was, at that point, doing photography work for different clients, singers, doing their photo shoots for their album covers and things like that. And I felt like I needed to do something as an activist. And my personality wasn't the type to be on the front line. But I decided that there were different ways of being an activist.
Absolutely.
And I could be a visual one. And so then I started thinking about how I could create a body of work that would speak to that moment. Also because I feel that as an artist, it's my responsibility to speak to the time that I'm in. And to time travel too, to bring all these different moments in time together to make commentary. And so rewriting history really just came to life. And it came to life primarily because I knew that I wanted to create these beautiful Baroque gowns, but I didn't have the money.
Similar to this?
Similar to this. Well, this is easier because I didn't have to, at this point with this work, I already know what paper can do, and I already know that I'm a paper artist. For rewriting history, I didn't know any of that.
So had you done any paperwork before?
No.
Oh, wow.
No. And I never thought of making these gowns out of paper. It was originally like, how am I going to put together this huge project, this photography project, without the material? And then I started thinking about all the material, all the important items in our society that are made of materials that we often take for granted. And paper became like, whoa, wait a minute. The Constitution is made out of paper. The Bible is made out of paper, the Quran. Like, we have these items that we look to that shape our lives every day. And it became clear that it had to be paper. So then I taught myself how to work with paper.
Wow. No lessons?
No lessons.
Okay.
Just self-taught. I mean, I wouldn't say no lessons. Not personal lessons, one-on-one with anyone to teach me. My education was self-driven, which meant that there was a lot of books I had to, look at. There were YouTube videos and many things that didn't work for what I wanted to do, but then I had to find a way to incorporate that into my own practice. And so, yes, of course, pulling from things that were there, but then transforming it, the real, alchemy, and forming that alchemy to do what I wanted to do.
Had your father done paper?
No.
Okay. Oh, wow. You found something he hadn't done.
Yes, yeah. And I remember him looking at the first rewriting history dress that I was making right in his living room. He was watching the news and he walked by and he saw me doing this garment. He was like, "What are you doing? What is this for? You're making a dress out of paper?" I was like, I don't know, but my intuition is telling me that this is the right thing to do. And he's like, "Okay," kind of just shrugged it off, not knowing that it was going to, I think neither one of us knew it was going to go where it did.
Yeah. Well, how could you?
Yeah.
So let's go back just a bit. I think that's a very important way to look at your decision to leave school so close to graduation, because you don't want to pursue something that is not your passion or your thing. So how did your parents take it?
My mother was way more understanding than my father.
Really?
Yes. My mother said, I trust you, and you're a great mom, and you're going to make the best decision for your family that you need to make, and we just need to support that. And you've proven that you can do well in school, so you can always fall back on that. My father thought that I was making a huge mistake and that I was ruining, my chances. And he took some time. He took a lot of time. And I remember every major moment in my career, I would turn to him and say, "Are you proud now? Are you impressed?" And it wasn't a bad thing, though. I really needed that, I say, because I realized now what he was doing. I remember my first newspaper write-up, or not even that, my first gallery signing. I said, "Isn't this great?" And he's like, that always happens. I mean, that's not really, good, but you can do more. And then I came to him with the first writing, the newspaper article. And he's like, there should be many more. You need the big ones. And then I remember the New York Times article came out, 2 of them, that centered my work. It was the Met exhibition that really, I remember the opening. I turned to him and I was like, "Are you proud now?" And he was like, "I've always been proud, but yes, this is the moment." And, of course I lost it and cried, but, he was like, "I wanted you to understand that there's going to be a lot of these moments, and I want you to push yourself no matter what that moment is. And I was a Haitian, the first Haitian woman to be exhibited at the Met, and then I was a living Haitian
Yeah.
woman, right? So usually you have a lot of dead artists. And so there's so many things that I had broken down, and he was very proud of that.
And remains.
And it remains. Now, I mean, when he saw the first, the news mention here in Arkansas, I sent him a clip, and he was just like, I didn't think he would think that was a big deal. He was like, that's huge, you're in the news, you know? So now it's like every little thing that happens is a big deal for him.
Good,
Yeah.
good. But how instructive is that to students who may be, you know, sort of studying something that they think that their parents want them to, or that they think is going to get them a good job, but not necessarily fill their soul?
Yeah, that's a hard thing. I always say that it requires a tremendous amount of bravery and honesty to get to that place. I was fortunate in that I was older,
Yeah.
you know, and I had had a lot of struggle in my life. I had children, and I really had a time to develop in ways because of that age that informed my choice to leave medicine and go that route as an artist. Because of my maturity, I was able to say, check in and say, this is what I want out of this journey if I'm going to make this major decision and sacrifice. And I knew entering that to be an artist meant this to me. And I think that's one thing that younger students are lacking. They just don't have that experience. They haven't lived long enough. And sometimes even when you are old enough, you're not able to be brave. And so I say really to anyone struggling and thinking about that, it's just remember that everybody is special. We all come to this earth with our God-given gifts, and really your job is to find why you came here. And that thing will always make your heart and soul sing and dance. And I think it's a little bit easier to the palate when you hear it that way, you know, rather than the stress of trying to find what that is. It's like it's there already. You just have to make yourself vulnerable to yourself, really.
And be exposed to things.
And be exposed
Yeah.
to things. I think also the challenge is not leaving oneself open to the different experiences that you can have in life, and making your world very small. When the world is very small, you're afraid of everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. And you didn't waste any time. I mean, you studied all that biology and pre-med, and how has that informed your work today?
Oh, I love.
I mean, you're a better maker
I'm
now.
so much better
because of that.
Because of that, and I call my studio two different things. It's either a dungeon or a lab.
Yeah.
Usually both, because there's so much experimentation that happens in the work. And I'm looking at pH. I'm looking at, I literally have a lab set up sometimes in my studio. So if it wasn't for all those things that I did in school, I don't think I would approach the art of making that way. And so science has very much made me a better maker.
Yeah.
And it also informs the concepts that I want to talk about in my work, physics and the stars and planets, and thinking about where we really come from. And there's something really special happening with the science world and spirituality world, where they're kind of moving closer together, and I don't know if people really realize that. And I'm also, I'm seeing that there are more scientists that are opening themselves up to that spiritual world as well. And so I get to do that in my work.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, what is your, this is going to be your work for several more years.
Yes.
Are you beginning to think of your next project? I mean, how does that work? What's your process?
My process, because I love to work on long exhibitions or concepts, they're usually packed full of things. And so I can never get myself out of that space to think of the next thing, because really
Good.
each project, that
I mean, I want to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. Really, because this work is going to take years, like rewriting history did, every niche is going to be a different sculpture. And so the sculpture itself is that future work. So
Okay,
what
yeah.
if that makes sense, like it's a way of feeding the need to create the future works while being committed to something in the now.
Yeah.
And so this is really going to be about, it's going to change, it's going to morph. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but I have the foundation.
I love the idea of these long-term, metamorphoses, really.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's the science as well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's looking at something change over time. Also, life and death are very important themes in my work, and so that's a part of all of this. By just the material that I use, that's all a part of that journey.
So, where is the rewriting history now?
Everyone wants to know that question, or has that question. Rewriting history is touring.
Okay.
So just because I stopped making for it, it doesn't mean that I've stored it away. There's parts of the exhibition that travel to different places, and it will continue to do that.
Okay.
Right now, a bulk of the work is in New York, still stored at the Andrew Friedman home, and some of it is going to Boston this fall. And then there's talk of it going to Paris. So it will continue to live on in the way that it needs to while I focus on this project.
Maybe someday it can come to the BOM.
I would
here
love
at
that.
UCA.
I would love that, yes.
So let's talk about this Waters of the Abyss. That will have the same future. You're going to finish it, and then
Yes.
it will go on tour for.
For a long time.
Yeah.
For a long time. And it will change. And that's what I love about this work, is that every exhibition will be slightly different, because by the next exhibition, different pieces will be added to that collection of rewriting history. So it's this collection that's really developing right before people's eyes.
I love it, love it. So where did you come up with the columbarium idea?
Ceremony, and thinking about how we bury our dead, how we honor our ancestors once they've been buried, and memory in the past. And memory is a very big thing in the work for me. And so I really wanted to create a space that would speak to that, to memory, to what would that space look like? And I had the honor of going beneath a cathedral one time in New York, and for the first time saw a columbarium, and that was about 8 years ago. And I didn't realize it when this idea came up, that was really informing this project from that moment. And you just get this sense of familial history happening all at once in this different space, with people that don't belong to your family, but you feel it. You feel how the honoring of them really mattered to someone, to other people.
Yeah.
And I wanted to create something like that, but then tie in how memory is important to change, not only our now, but to decide how we want to be as a society in the future.
Yeah. So you were here first in the fall of 2021.
Yes.
Tell me about your experience then. What did you do then? It's been such a blur the last few years. I can't remember everything. So
The same here. I came for a 4-day residency.
very short.
A very, very short one, where I met students, and I took a trip to the museum.
Crystal Bridges.
Crystal Bridges, that's right. And I was sitting next to Gail Seymour, and I really felt like, I don't know what it was. It was just the same intuition that happened with rewriting history. It just came into me that I needed to talk about this concept.
You already had the concept.
Not really. I
Sort of.
had something forming, but I knew I needed to get it out to someone. And Gail had this energy about her that from the beginning told me she wanted to do something, and she was looking for that idea. And I also got that from Professor Massey, who was really interested in giving that type of exposure to his students. And so just from the two of them, I felt like this was the right thing. And really from it took 3 hours about to get to Crystal Bridges from Conway, and in that short amount of time, we had an exhibition planned.
But it's changed and has continued to change. It's changed since you got here.
It's changed slightly, but really the foundation of it, the
Okay.
core of it,
Core.
has stayed the same, and so it's really amazing to see how that concept, dropping those seeds, really has just grown, you know, and that has been the thing that's fueling this project as well.
And I don't think we've had such a long-term residency that I can remember.
Yes,
So,
yes, I heard that. This is the longest residency
what
here.
an honor. Yeah.
Yes, it was an honor. And so, you know, it was wonderful because that 4 days, Gail and Professor Massey thought we can do some type of hybrid where you can do residency and, you know, work with our students hand in hand, you know, one-on-one.
Because you've essentially been teaching all semester.
I've been teaching the whole semester, yeah. So I have my own students to teach, but I've also been teaching process to the foundation and, of course, the high school students.
You've had a busy time.
Yes.
So you will be at the opening on May 11th?
Yes, I will.
Do you know details? And I may have put you on the spot here.
No, aside from the date and
Okay.
where I need to be,
We'll find out more.
yeah,
about
I
that.
know that there's some details being worked out, and so I know right now the date is May 11th, and that's where I plan
And
to
you are
be.
scheduled to leave when?
May 13th.
Okay, so you'll be here as we shoot this a
Yes.
couple more weeks.
Yes,
So,
I'll
okay,
be here.
Okay. Well, Fabiola, this has been amazing. I have really enjoyed
you.
learning about you and your work, and I'm so excited to see the finished product.
Thank
Well,
you. I
so
can't
far.
wait to show it to you.
We'll be back again next time for Spotlight.